Sorry? There's more. You really should just keep moving in. Just keep moving in as you come in. So I feel that there has to be film and some more folks out there trying to get in.
The upper echelon.
Come on in, we'll squeeze in. What percent?
What, 35?
They're already paying 38.
They're not really paying.
Ah, you know why? You know why?
Come on in.
Exactly. I mean, and what happens if you raise those rates? Then it becomes effective. Then it becomes.
Sitting there.
Sure can.
He's asking for the top 1%, or actually people over $250,000 a year, to pay more. He doesn't say how much.
That's for negotiation.
They're already paying.
I don't.
Right now.
The lowest tax rate.
Here, let's put this way. We raise taxes on the
We're talking about revenue.
We're absolutely
We're talking revenues into the treasury.
tax rates since before Reagan.
When you
And Bank of America, my bank, and Exxon.
All right, I mean, I can sit there and give you the absolute numbers from 2008. That's the last year they have actual revenue numbers.
26. Would this make you uncomfortable telling, that stuff?
This is not bad. This is bad stuff that the president's trying to scare old people.
I'm not scared.
I'll tell you what, my mother is. And it's because
He said that your Social Security checks aren't going to be paid.
well, not only that, it should be a balanced approach to do this. Why do we need to keep spending? Why would the Republicans? Well, it's out of order. I mean, why did the Republicans vote to spend the money?
Ladies and gentlemen, we can just keep it civil, please. Just keep it civil.
Yeah.
They can keep it civil in Congress. If you want me to discuss anything you'd like to, just please keep it civil. Let's not raise our voices and yell at anyone.
I'd just like to ask you one thing. You had a rich uncle, and you were in trouble.
Excuse me.
Would your rich uncle help you out?
Excuse me.
If you had one.
Do we have another one?
Would he hold a gun to his head and say, "You will help me out"? That's the difference.
Wouldn't the rich uncle just...
He might, yeah. It's called Christian charity.
Wouldn't it?
He probably would, maybe.
I know mine would.
Maybe he would. But he couldn't hold a gun to the guy's head and say, "You will help me out."
I don't know why
We don't
they
have
don't
one
use
printed
that.
out this time.
For
the last 10 years.
The rich uncle...
Here we go. Here we go. It's the rich versus the poor. It's socioeconomic warfare.
All right, we're here for a different reason. All right, we didn't come here to talk to you.
Okay.
Anybody need to sign up?
We have a few trickling around here, so I'll make sure everyone gets a chance to sign in.
Okay.
Okay.
This one's filled up.
Oh, okay.
You're going to have to play London Bridge and fall down.
His name is Matt.
I need him. It just carries.
I can make the sign-in sheets.
Pretty warm outside.
It's supposed to be 104. 105 today. Not quite yet.
He's my calming
We
agent.
haven't reached that.
Yeah, just let him visit their town.
Did you want to sign in?
Yes. Thank you.
Go to your website, make contact.
Does anybody else need to sign in still?
And it makes me feel like he doesn't want to hear my voice.
Oh, sorry to hear that. With filters of through Facebook, I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know how that would happen.
As, well, it isn't just Facebook, it filters, for instance, Credo, if I do a petition through Credo, or Move On, or any of those anything, any organization that is a petition, where it says send this to your representative, it does not come to Representative McCall. It will go to Hutchinson, it will go to Corning, but it gets filtered out from
I
McCall.
wonder if they have our wrong email address. Something I can think of, because we do get, if people put emails to the website or send it to an email, it does come through.
Yeah, it doesn't, it never has.
Okay.
That doesn't keep me from doing it, it
Right.
just makes me longer, that's
Right.
all. But it does make me feel like Representative McCall doesn't want to hear from the average,
Not perfect.
yeah.
Right, yeah, that's definitely not right. They must have our wrong email address in their system.
But all of them are the same, it doesn't
No,
matter
they
what
couldn't.
organization it is, because I sign them all, okay?
So I'm just curious, a show of hands of this group here, most people in this room want to see a compromise, revenue and cuts? Or
Yes.
they-
Yes. Revenue and cuts.
Yeah.
But without raising taxes, we don't get anything.
I would just like the rich to pay the same rate that I'm paying.
Right.
Well, I think we need to soak the
Well, you're all
elderly in the poor.
Amazon
So
will
that
tell you
millionaires
to
can have more
not
of
pay
it.
taxes, or, you know,
All
that's.
right.
Yes.
Yes, well, I mean, that sounds like a reason we're gonna die sooner anyway,
Sure.
so, you know.
Soak the elderly, soak the poor, soak the kids. Cut back on it.
And, by the way, cut schooling so that these kids aren't educated enough to get decent jobs, so when we get old, they can't support us. I mean, definitely cut schooling.
Reschooling, their jobs being sent overseas, so.
Yeah, that's true, they'll have to go overseas to get their schooling and their jobs, right?
Spend it on war and the rich.
How about 47% of the people who pay zero income taxes?
Let's
in this
collect
country?
those taxes. I'm
If
ready.
they- if
Let's
they're-
go for it.
If
They don't pay anything.
If
Nobody
they,
here's
that
arguing
means they
about that.
probably don't
Should
have
be
jobs,
first.
so that they
They
can't
don't,
pay.
well, that's
Fine,
not
we can make a
necessarily
lot
true,
more
they're actually
taxes.
making money in
You
many
don't know that,
cases.
but you
A
don't
lot
know
of those
that
people
for
make
a
less
fact.
than, say, $50,000 a year, right?
A
So
lot
if
of
we,
those people make a lot
Make a lot less than
okay,
50,000.
so if we tax them, are we gonna get a lot more money?
We need
Or
a
if we
fair
take
tax, is what we need.
billionaires, we can tax a few of them, and it'll.
Do you know what percentage of the total
Oh, make up
federal
a
income?
number.
No, do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know what the total percentage of federal income taxes paid by the top 1% of wage earners in this country?
Probably 40%.
Yeah,
I'm sure
38%. Top 1%, that's okay, that's above 300 and some odd thousand employees.
You do realize that they earn that much
Should
money
they pay
from
more?
that?
Should they pay more?
Don't you want to pay for what people
Why?
suffer?
Don't get out of my face.
They're doing better than they've ever
Why,
done.
why should, those are the people that create
They're
the
also
jobs.
getting-
They created each other. Where are the jobs? They're offshoring.
Oh, George Bush,
They're
George
sending,
Bush.
they're
started
sending
under
jobs
George
out of
No,
the
it
country.
didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
The
Do you know
tax
who was,
rate in
do you know
1950
who
was 86%.
1950?
Under Eisenhower,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you know, absolutely
Been
it
a lot
was, but you know
lower.
what
And
happened?
nobody protested.
They all had
Don't you want to
tax
be a good
shelters.
citizen and pay your fair share?
Yeah, but I could be just as happy paying half of what I currently pay. How about that?
Would you like your parents to be living with you the rest of your life because they can't
No,
afford to live in their
they're
own place?
deceased. They're
Well,
deceased.
mine aren't too.
Do away with
The tax shelters and.
I agree.
Let's
I
collect the
agree.
taxes
Well,
on the
that's called,
rich.
your friends in the Republican Party called that tax
Look,
increase.
look, I am not what you would call a rich person. I've been state employed for 30 years. Okay?
Well, I haven't been a state
So
employee.
I am not
So
a
you
wealthy
so you
person.
appreciate the unions
I
and
like-
you
no,
appreciate
I
the
do not.
benefits.
I
And
do
you
not.
appreciate
We'd be
the
making
benefits.
$1 an
I
hour
do
to work
not.
for unions.
That's true.
Sir,
And
sir,
Texas
in all seriousness, you should check the history. Go back.
I do.
Hang on a
Here,
minute.
how about this?
Hang on a minute.
How about
Let me-
this?
Let me finish what I'm saying and you can respond. Let me finish what I'm saying and you can respond. I want you can say whatever you want, but I want to finish my statement. Please go back and reread the history of the 1920s and the labor movement in this country. There's a reason why, there is a reason why there are unions. That's right. And it's because if there is not a balance of power between the capitalists and the people who produce the goods through their labor, then the people who produce the goods are abused.
Public employee unions have done nothing except
You're
have
changing
a...
the terms of the debate. Nobody said public employee unions. We
Well,
said
that's-
unions, flat out.
The concept.
Are you
And
talking?
there's no child labor because of unions.
Somebody that can come in and take money out of the public treasury.
Who?
Usually the public employed unions. That's where the money comes from.
See, the difference is
You see, to understand the unions take money and lobby the Democrats. The Democrats get in, and then they can turn right around and support the unions and give them more money.
So there's a fundamental difference that we have in terms of the way we see the world. I see it as my government. I ask them to do things, so when they tax me, and I've got a representative there,
that's right,
who's representing me,
supposedly,
I pay those taxes because it's part of what my government has chosen to do. The government is not.
Would you be happier paying half the taxes you pay today?
The government does not impose.
I would not.
You're changing
what I
Nothing prevents you from doing it.
You're changing the terms of the debate. I'm not talking about whether I would pay, less or more. That's not the issue.
He's not interested in
the issue is that the government
That's
is
the problem.
representative, and they tax me.
Not ever.
They are
would
my
not be interested
representatives.
in a
They're doing something
rational
that I have
debate.
elected
That's
somebody to do.
right.
Now, if I disagree with it, I vote somebody else into office.
Or you can. You vote for somebody else, certainly, but that
I
doesn't
vote
mean
for-
that they
I don't always
misrepresent everybody
representative
else.
democracy does not mean I always get my way.
That's
Where are
correct.
you?
But then we
That's
get
right.
to come here and say what we don't like and do like about
Sure,
our
absolutely. That
representatives.
we have an absolute
And
right
that's
to do
why
that.
Taxes
we're
are
here.
not- taxes
Not
are
to
not
argue,
somebody
not to
who has
argue
money and
with you.
take
We're not
money
here to
from
argue with you. We're here to talk about our issues with our representative. We're not
I
here
don't
to
think
talk
he's
to
here,
you.
is he?
Well, this is
doesn't matter.
the
He's
office
got
that
his office staff.
this is the office that we pay for us to come to represent
sorry.
ourselves.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna grab these.
So we're not here to discuss things with you. We're here to discuss things
Do you,
with our
are you
representatives.
actually, is Representative McCall actually your representative?
Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
yes.
That's why we're here.
Is there a representative of Representative McCall that we can talk to?
I'm Representative McCall.
Yeah.
Staff member.
Staff or somebody?
There's a few of us around here.
I'm sorry?
There's a few of us, yes.
Okay. Maybe
Why should we raise the budget deficit now?
So you've already spent the money.
Why are we talking? We're not here to talk.
Absolutely.
We're here to talk.
Why do? Senator
Because
Obama didn't
you've
want to do
already
it.
spent the money.
So everybody,
Raising the budget
excuse me.
deficit.
So the
is
vast
not to
majority of
spend
people
more.
here are here for a particular reason.
Right.
So I'm going to try to express that as best I can. But I would like for everybody else to please feel free to add your own point of view as we go along. Okay, I'm not going to pretend to necessarily speak exactly for everybody here. That's not appropriate. But most of us who are here in this room right now are here because we are not feeling that we're being properly represented with respect to the debt ceiling debate that's going on right now. Speaking personally, I think that the debate right now, particularly on the Republican side, is disingenuous and it's not honest.
I agree.
The debt ceiling, first of all, there are several things that I would like to point out. First of all, I'd like to point out that Social Security has nothing to do with our national debt. Social Security actually has a surplus right now and will continue to have a surplus until 2032. Okay? It shouldn't even be on the table. But in addition to that, there are other programs here that help people in need. And I think it's fair to say that most of the people in this room believe that those people deserve to be helped. That
Absolutely.
we want that from our government,
Yes.
our government, our representatives.
And from our tax dollars.
And from our tax dollars. And we feel that it is not a fair or in any way a reasonable solution to try to take everything out of spending. That there are reasonable changes that can be made in the tax code, some of it closing tax loopholes. I think many, although not necessarily everybody in this room, probably also agrees that the wealthiest of Americans can afford to pay a little bit more to help us get out of the debt.
More than 38%?
We have
Americans.
we have, okay, let's face it, we've had higher taxes on, in our progressive tax scheme before. They were higher under Clinton. We had the largest expansion, longest expansion that this country has ever seen under higher tax rates than we see right now. Asking the wealthy to pay slightly more is not going to tank the economy.
Right.
That is not really what the issue is. The issue is that we've spent trillions of dollars over the last decade, a lot of it off budget in 2 wars, that needs to be paid for. And we feel that it's only fair that everybody chip in. We're willing to make changes in our own lives. We're willing to accept some cuts ourselves. But we want to see a fair approach taken where everybody actually participates. And the rhetoric coming out of the Republican Party is disingenuous. I mean, I'm going to call it as I see it. They are lying to our faces.
Yes,
Speaker Boehner last night in his response literally lied to the American people in the way he spoke to them. And that's not acceptable. There are differences of opinion in any democracy, but if you're going to have you've got to have an honest debate in order to come to a reasonable compromise, and there is not an honest debate taking place right now.
And I think also when it comes to Medicare, I can go to just about any country in the world and buy drugs over the counter at a pharmaceutical, antibiotics being a representative item. I do not have to pay for a doctor. I can get the antibiotics. The pharmacist is capable of helping me with that, and I pay 10 cents on the dollar. So why not make these deals with pharmaceutical companies through Medicare so that it cuts the cost of Medicare drugs? It just makes sense. And yet we constantly get this stonewalling from our Republican representatives against it because they take too much money from pharmaceuticals.
They're in their pockets.
So why don't we just go and do what's right for the elderly, the young, who can't stand here like we can, and take care of these issues? Yeah. It's, you know,
veterans.
The veterans. I mean, let's talk about the veterans.
Forgotten by this
administration. We've maimed and damaged so many young people, both in the head and in the body, and what do they get out of these wars? Nothing we get out of these wars. Afghanistan has a pipeline now. Big deal. That's what the war was about in Afghanistan. Stop it. I mean, let's get on with it. Oil?
I think we should have, gotten. I believe that we should have. When we went in there in the first place, we said, okay, we'll come in there and we'll save your butts, but you will pay for it with oil.
We didn't go in to save their butts. We went in to build a pipeline.
I'm thinking about Kuwait.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Kuwait.
Yeah. Well, Kuwait, they paid for that, but Iraq was supposed to pay for it with oil, and we never never happened.
They should have. I agree.
Well, instead we got no bid contracts, and we've got tort reform, which has forced some of the wrongdoers to force some of their victims onto Medicaid rolls.
Right, exactly.
When you put a $250,000 limit on something that's been done, all that did was protect the insurance company.
Too many frivolous lawsuits that people folded on because they couldn't afford it.
I'm telling you,
they couldn't afford the attorneys.
Tort reform did nothing but raise health insurance costs here in Texas. And it has forced people that were done wrong onto Medicaid instead of
raise rates.
If anybody wants to
How
write
can
another
it?
comment,
That's what's happened since Texas has
pages
adopted tort reform, health insurance rates, and doctor's rates have gone up.
Opinions? You want to fill out an opinion?
It's a more extensive opinion if you want to write.
What do you do with
Where's our spokesman? Oh, there he is.
I'm not a spokesman, but
Well, I wanted to let you have this. There's a couple of things there that look through it, and you can. I can give you sites. I can give you statistics that really do. No, as a matter of fact, no, I don't.
Okay. Well, there's a really good documentary on our civil justice system on there. That would be worthwhile to see. It's called Hot Topic.
on the full?
When everything supposedly goes to pot. Not according to Michelle Bachman, however, or Tim Pawlenty. How many people here in their number like me receive Social Security? Quite a few. And that, according to what they're saying, is on August 2nd, if there's no agreement reached, or if we don't just do away with debt ceiling altogether, we are going to end up with the Treasury Department deciding which bills to pay and which bills not to pay. And your Social Security checks may be those that are not paid. And they normally go out, I think, cooperate. Some of you got my talking points. Now, I won't accept yes for an answer. Bottom line is he doesn't have the votes in his own party to pass any kind of agreement. Because there are between 60 and 100 people, Tea Party affiliates or like-minded individuals who will vote against any compromise. They don't want the government to succeed. They want the government to fail. They want it to go bankrupt. Their cut, cap, and balance, if you've heard that proposal, is idiotic. It's being pushed by Tea Party members in the Republican Party. even these Tea Party members have rejected John Boehner's proposal, which was the 8-month extension of the debt ceiling, and we talk about it again next spring, just before the 2012 elections. They don't want this agreement. I had a telecon yesterday with KLBJ, and the young lady was asking me questions about why you're meeting, etc., and I explained the same thing I did here. And then she said, well, John Carter said that he does not like the fact that all these negotiations are being held behind closed doors. And I said, well, we ought to ask his own speaker why he's having negotiations behind closed doors, because he's trying to protect his position as Speaker of the House. Because right at his heels is the guy that always walks behind him, Eric Cantor, who's a majority leader, and just waiting to take his position because Eric Cantor is a Tea Party. If Boehner brings a bill to the floor of the House and it gets passed with Democratic support, he will no longer be the Speaker of the House. So you would hope that more intelligent minds in Washington, the administration, would understand this. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We can't, all I've heard about is cuts. The Republicans don't like Reid's proposal, even though it's all cuts and no revenue, because it doesn't cut Medicare. And the reason they don't want that is they want concessions from the Democrats on Medicare cuts, so that they will offset the Democrats' condemnation of Paul Ryan's budget, which talked about privatizing Medicare. So that way they can't be blamed in the 2012 elections for Paul Ryan's budget thing. So now we have this kabuki dancing with two dancers trying their best to protect their present and future positions. President Obama is willing to go against the progressive base of the party and make cuts to the big three that we talked about, and perhaps assure his re-election in 2012. Since he takes for granted his liberal base. Of course, Bernie Sanders, who can't run really because he's an independent, said right or left of the dead center of the spectrum. Therefore, they will vote whichever way they want, and the indication is that even independents want this problem solved. So they want this issue solved in the next week. And if nothing else, remember the two big Republican lies that have been propagated by everyone coming before the microphone. This is a deficit crisis. No, it's a lack of revenue crisis. And the deficit is caused by two wars and the tax cuts for millions. Raising this...
We didn't fund by increasing taxes. It's the first war where Americans weren't asked to sacrifice and support the war fighter.
Let's start with Bush.
Because we did it.
Bush didn't go on it and genocide was there was a war going on. Then the second lie is raising taxes on the wealthiest will hurt the job creators. When we can least afford it. False. These people are revenue hoarders. They are not job creators. And if they were job creators, where did all those jobs go during the Bush years when they had their tax cuts?
Overseas!
Billions out of the country, and they're trying to get the president to reduce the tax from 35% down to 5% so they could repatriate the money. The problem, I asked the question, well, why do they want to repatriate the money? Because if you're a stockholder in the company, you don't get any of the money until it gets back in the U.S. You can't touch it overseas. So, the solution to this, and anybody can come up after me and talk about this, the solution to this is probably not going to be done immediately. We are here holding up signs, etc. But if you remember in 2010, how the Tea Party members were all swept into power, in Texas especially, we had the lowest voter turnout in the nation, 32% in the 2010 election. And so we have only ourselves and our fellow citizens who didn't vote to blame for what we have in Washington and also in the State House. So the bottom line is get out and help your candidates and vote. And if you have somebody who can run against, for example, Paul Workman in South Boston, where I live, go ahead and get support, give them a volunteer. So, anyone else want to give a personal story about, or even a group story, about why you're here, other than I took this out and asked him to come?
You pretty much said it all for me. We need to stop the lies in the government.
And I don't, you know, I was listening to a constitutional lawyer regarding the 14th Amendment. He said, yes, the president does have the authority under the 14th Amendment, but only when the nation is at peril. So you would have to wait until things started going to hell in a handbasket, and then he could step in and say, okay, we're going to tear it over.
I smell a handbasket.
Feels like peril to me.
Yeah, well, this is the threat of peril, and I've heard figures about the recession of $130 billion in lost wealth as a result of not increasing the deficit. That's your money, my money, your family's money, everybody's money, except for the people who send theirs offshore.
And the rich won't pay taxes, but we'll all pay with increased interest rates.
Right. And
Standing army that treats Americans like terrorists.
This is not going to affect just our country. It's going to affect the global markets. So, you know, if you're planning on making a trip, good luck. I don't know what the exchange rate's going to be when you make the trip. But, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Again, I don't want 6 minutes after the meeting time. I don't want anybody to rush off if you want to stand by the street.
We need to go upstairs and sign up. There was a